Hello, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Douglas Johnson. I am a certified yoga teacher at the advanced 500-hour level. I am also a kirtan artist and an ordained minister. Today, I wanted to chat with you a little bit about gratitude and its opposite, which is taking things for granted. Before I do that, though, I want to thank the community of people that make these talks possible, and those are my patrons on Patreon. So if you're interested in joining that community, please check out the links below. If you want to help out, but you don't want to become a patron, you can do so by liking, subscribing, sharing, and commenting here on YouTube. All right, so gratitude. I am almost positive that I've spoken about this in past talks. I've been doing these talks now for several years, and really I think a lot of the concepts are simple, and there aren't necessarily a lot of them. In a sense, spirituality is very simple, so a lot of the themes, a lot of the topics will come back. And the reason I might talk about one is it's either relevant to me personally, or it is relevant to maybe somebody that I'm working with, a student, or somebody that I'm counseling. So gratitude for me has been very, very powerful recently, and this was part of the tool set that I used to emerge from my dark night of the soul that I went through last year, pretty much for the second half of last year. And it's such a powerful tool. They've even done studies and research showing that gratitude journaling, can help make us happier and more satisfied with our life. So that's really the question, I think, with spirituality in general, at least the type of spirituality that I teach. I'm not really interested in spirituality that tries to escape the world or sees the world as something we need to run away from, or something evil or bad that we need to use spiritual practices to free ourselves from. Rather, I think life is to be lived to its fullest. And for me, spiritual tools allow me to do that. Otherwise, my heart and mind, they tend to get in the way. They will distort my experience of life such that I can no longer enjoy it. So, a teacher I once studied with a long time ago said that gratitude was the closest emotion to feeling what God feels. Now, I have no idea where this teacher, it was a yoga teacher, I have no idea where they got that from. This is a teacher that I admire, and I have a lot of respect for, so I take what he says pretty seriously. It's not something that he said that I think, oh, well, whatever, he's just talking. So again, I don't know if he got that from a scripture, from his personal experience. Maybe his teacher or guru told him that. I honestly don't know, but it's an interesting thought, and I can't verify it one way or the other. I can't say that that's what God experiences, but it's an interesting thought. God, the creator of everything, if, let's personify God for a moment as a sort of a human or a being. So you create everything, and what's the emotion that you feel? Not proud, not afraid that things are going to go wrong. You just feel gratitude. And there might be some truth to this because gratitude is so powerful. So I think the message that I'd like to get across with this video is, if you want more peace, joy, love, if you want to feel yourself really connecting with life, then gratitude is something that you will want to practice. And it's this feeling of being connected with life. I think that is we're really seeking. I think Joseph Campbell said we want the experience of being alive, of feeling alive. And as strange as that sounds, I know personally, I have gone through sections of my life where even though I knew I was alive, I didn't really feel alive. I didn't feel connected with the moment I was in. I felt somehow as though I were watching somebody else live their life. Very, very unpleasant experience of maybe even achieving goals, achieving things that you wanted to achieve, having experiences you wanted to have, and yet feeling like somehow you weren't having those experiences, even as you were having them. There's a sense of emptiness in the experiences, such that you want to have another experience like that. It's very unsatisfying. So well, maybe I need more. Okay, and this is typical of the ego and ego pursuits. They will never satisfy. That's just not really what the ego's trying to do. The ego, if it were truly satisfied, it would disappear. So it's not really actually interested in you finding contentment. That would be disastrous for the ego. So gratitude is something that is so simple and so easy, and it's something we can practice. Again, as I so often try and emphasize, this channel, my teaching, is really about moment by moment. What am I choosing? What am I choosing to focus on? And so in any moment, we could focus on lack, what I feel I want or need that I'm not having, okay, that I can't, it may even be there, but we just may not be perceiving it. Or I can focus on what I do have. Now, chances are, if you're watching this video, you have a lot to be grateful for. Now, you may have your challenges, you might have your problems, you might have health issues, you might be single and wanting to be paired up with somebody. There might be all kinds of things that your ego is identifying as problems in your life. And the ego narrative generally will be, I cannot know peace, joy, happiness, connection, love, contentment without these things. Now, the funny thing about the ego is if you go and get those things, if you manage to get those things, it'll just change the list on you. It'll say, well, now I need this and that and whatever, you know, so, oh, I need a partner to feel love. Okay, you get a partner. Well, my partner doesn't treat me the way that I want to be treated, you know, then maybe you change that. And it's like, well, actually, I think I want this other person as my partner, not this partner. It does not stop. So that's the ego's game. And again, it doesn't want you to figure that out. If you did, it would dissolve the ego. So gratitude is really something we practice with what do we have now that if it were taken away, we would miss. And if you're watching this, you're probably watching this on some sort of an expensive device, a device that uses really, really advanced technology. A laptop, a phone, something like that. Chances are this is being beamed into the device that you're using wirelessly. I mean, these are really, really incredible things. So we can be grateful for that. One of the things that the ego does is it takes things for granted so quickly. So again, we have all of these miracles happening around us, and yet the ego just discounts it almost as soon as we get it. Maybe when we first heard about smartphones, or maybe before we had one, we were lusting after it. Oh, how cool would it be if I had a smartphone or a laptop or my own internet connection or whatever it might be. And then we get it, and we might be excited for a day or two, or a week, or maybe even a month, but then it's taken for granted. Living on our own, right? Being an adult. When we're young, we want so much to be on our own, to have that freedom, to have our own place, to decorate the way that we want. Generally, once we have that freedom, we're no longer grateful for it. We take it for granted again. So taking things for granted is the opposite of gratitude. So the ego's trick is it identifies a few things that it tells you you're lacking. Now, whether you're really lacking those things or not is another story, but it'll feed you that narrative, and you may or may not believe it or buy into it. But if you buy into it, then the mind has a tendency to just focus on those things. Now, I do want to bring in a little bit of science here. So what the current research is telling us, for those of you that are science buffs and maybe aren't connecting so much with the spiritual side of what I'm saying, our minds are not wired for happiness. They are wired for survival. Okay, so if we just take that information and we apply it here, well, then my mind is constantly trying to problem solve. It's trying to identify threats. It's trying to identify lack. And it will keep spurring me to go ahead and try and fix those things. And so again, how can I know peace? How can I enjoy all of the amazing things that I already have if I have this mechanism built in that is constantly identifying lack and motivating me to try and fix that lack and telling me that there's something wrong until this lack has been made up. And as I already said, the way it works is the minute you fix that problem, fill that gap, there will be another. That's the way that the ego operates, okay? Now, whether this is a function of evolutionary biology or a spiritual thing, I don't honestly really care. What I'm most interested is in your happiness, your well-being. Again, being able to plug into your own life and really fully enjoy it for what it is. And again, this is a journey that I have gone through personally. So I have had the experience of living my life and really not feeling connected with what I was doing. And then I've had the experience after spiritual awakening of feeling really, really connected and in love with my life. And I have a fairly humble life. Now, you might think that means, well, why should I listen to this guy? What has he done? But I would argue that's actually why you should listen to me. I don't have any great claim to fame. I haven't done anything amazing or great. I don't have tons of money. I'm not a huge success in the eyes of the world. And yet I experience so much peace, joy, love, and happiness. And this is what I would like to share with you. So all of these tips, all of these practices that I give you in these talks are really designed to help with that. So gratitude is, again, a practice. And you can do something like gratitude journaling, but a lot of these practices that I share with you are things that are meant to be done in any moment, at any time. Again, when it comes to gratitude, it can be broken down such that even if we are experiencing some really serious lack in our lives, so even if you've been diagnosed with a terminal disease, or you're in the hospital, or perhaps someone you really love has passed away, it's still something we can practice. And I'll give you an example from my own life. So I suffer from asthma. It seems to not be as much of a problem now, but when I was younger, it would be quite acute. And I was allergic to certain animals. And when I'm in the presence of these animals, my breathing would get restricted. And I could barely breathe. It was very labored to breathe. And of course, if I were staying with somebody, this would actually disrupt my sleep quite a bit. So it was very, very, very uncomfortable, very unpleasant, a lot of suffering around that. So, point being, if we can take a breath in and out without laboring, without difficulty, even that is something we can feel grateful for, because the truth is, there's somebody out there, probably right now, somewhere, who can't do that. It's as simple as that. I'm out walking, having a physical body that is healthy enough for me to walk. I can be grateful for that. Having weather that I can walk, I can be grateful for that. Living in a community where it's safe enough for me to leave my home and not have to worry about being assaulted or mugged, I can be grateful for that. Having a beautiful public space in which I can walk and enjoy myself, I can be grateful for that. Having clothes that I can wear, I can be grateful for that. I hope you're getting the point that we don't have to find some fancy, big thing to be grateful for. Tonight, I'm going to go to my work, my job. And I absolutely adore my job, which is teaching yoga. I can be grateful for that I found my calling, my purpose, that I truly enjoy that, and that I am compensated for doing that. Really, there's no end to what we can be grateful for. Now, why would you be grateful? I mentioned it earlier. They've done studies and they've shown. I mean, this is in spiritual teaching going back thousands of years before there were any studies. But what I find is more and more as we study spirituality and the practices in spirituality, we find they actually really work to making us happier and healthier as individuals. So if I want more happiness, if I want to feel connected with my life, then this is a very simple thing that I can do. As I mentioned, you could sit down and gratitude journal. That's probably not a bad idea if you're new to this, because perhaps sitting in traffic in your car, you won't be able to think of anything. But even there, you can be grateful for the car that you have, that it's running, that you have the funds to maintain that vehicle and to fill it with gas. You could be grateful that there's gas in the gas stations. There have been times in history where gas was scarce. Even here in America, there have been periods of time where there have been shortages due to global politics. So being able to go to the gas station and fill up, you could be grateful for that. It's all a gift. And I think we all on some level understand that or get that. But what really matters in my experience is feeling it, not getting it. And this practice, I think, may start as an intellectual exercise, just theoretical. Maybe writing down, I am grateful for the gas in my car. I'm grateful for the job I have. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my partner. And maybe you're not feeling it. But like so many things with practice, we get better at it. And generally the effects become more powerful. So I really can't emphasize how much gratitude has helped me and impacted me. And again, being on the lookout, being wary for taking things for granted, because they're really, you could say, two sides of the same coin. If I focus on lack in my life, that focus tends to blind me to the abundance that I have. If I focus on the abundance, that tends to blind me to the lack. And I'll share with you something that is just my personal experience with it. The more I focus on the abundance and the gratitude, the lack seems to completely disappear. Okay, and this is where we get into spirituality and manifestation. So again, this is not something I'm going to be able to prove by citing a scientific study. Okay, so this is where we depart there. Spirituality has a lot of overlap with psychology, with science, with metaphysics and things like this, but it departs at a certain point. It goes beyond all of these things. And this is where we get there. So it's not going to necessarily be believable. It won't necessarily make sense. But if you can catch yourself taking something for granted, and again, there's a lot there. And instead of focusing on the lack, focus on the abundance, the gratitude for all those things, again, that you're taking for granted. This will fill you up. It will fill your heart and mind. And then this will, if I'm going to use, let's say, law of attraction speak, this raises or changes your vibration. And from the perspective of law of attraction, that is what draws things to you, because law of attraction says that like attracts like. So if you're feeling gratitude, you're feeling love, you're feeling connection, you're feeling abundance, well, then that's what you're going to experience. And it's going to manifest physically for you. Law of assumption, which is a slightly different take on it, says that we get what we are. So very similar idea that if I am love, gratitude, connection, abundance, then that is what I get. I will get those things because I am those things. How do I get to be those things? Gratitude. Focusing on what I already have, that is those things. And again, you could practice this in a hospital bed. You can be grateful for the nurses and the doctors that are taking care of you. You can be grateful for your health insurance company that's paying the bills. You can be grateful for the doctors and scientists that came up with the technology that you are being treated with. You can be grateful for the people who come to visit you in the hospital. There really, again, there is no situation in which we can't find that gratitude. We just have to let go of the ego's narrative. And the ego feels like that. That's generally what it feels like. It's like a tight mental fist, like a big no, a mental no. And again, if I were to speak the words of the ego out loud, be like, I'm not going to be happy until whatever it is, until I'm a millionaire, until I find love, until I am famous and everyone respects me, until whatever it might be. Insert whatever it is. That's why it doesn't really matter what people want. It's the wanting itself that creates the suffering. And that's a word I haven't used up to this point, but it's a great word in spirituality, suffering. The teachers that I follow and admire, and the teaching that I try and share with you, is to reduce suffering. That is the main thing. What happens when we reduce suffering? We experience peace, joy, love, connection, contentment, all of these things. We actually get to enjoy our time here, which we all know is limited. There's a limited amount of time that we will be here, manifest on this planet. So how do we maximize our appreciation and enjoyment of the gift of a human life? All right, everybody. I hope this was helpful. As always, I'd love to hear from you, so please leave me a comment down below. Please share this with anyone who you think might get benefit from it. And again, if you're interested in helping support me in doing this, becoming a part of that community, this really is a community effort. Please check out the links to Patreon below. Until next time, everyone, namaste and have a beautiful day.